My end, it never shows me, but you know what? Okay, now it's just recording. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, One Stream Live. What's good, everybody? This is Big Said once again. This is my very last. Actually, you know what? Yes, my very last podcast for the year. But if you're watching it after the beginning of the year, then for you it's the first one for the year. But either way, we're here. Big Said Industry Cosign. I have somebody that I've known for quite some time. We've crossed paths over the years, and he's definitely doing things that I didn't anticipate him doing. And I would introduce, but you know what? I'm going to let him introduce. Well, of course, you see his name already, and but I'm going to let him introduce himself as well as what he does, so that way we can get into it. So, my guest and the name of this is "My Friends Are Better Than Yours," featuring. I was going to call you by the name I met you by, but Rafael Peña.
Yeah, do that. Thank you. So shout out to Ced once again, always innovative, and his project, the Industry Cosign. So I've been watching it and been a fan of his for many, many years. My name is Rafael Peña, and I'm a travel writer. I work for Travel Noire. I've done some projects with Black Enterprise along with Big Ced, and now I am at Detour, which also syndicates my articles to Miami Herald, The Observer, Fort Texas, SAC-B, all those kind of publications that are under the McClatchy brand. And I write about travel from the Black perspective.
And that's always a good thing. But if it's Pena, are you? Never mind. No.
Yeah, well, I am. My parents are Dominican, so you could say I definitely write from the Black and Brown perspective when it comes to travel all over the world.
Now, it's funny. The only reason why I said it now is only because the current in hip hop with Fat Joe and FBA and all these other things, and people like Spanish Black, and I'm like, you know what? We're all people, so let's be people and let's represent who we want to represent. But anyway,
I don't want to say anyway, but I think my Black friends need to leave Fat Joe alone. So,
I came up with Fat Joe as well, and I'm like,
it's like it's Joey. Like nobody really is on it like that.
Yeah, I mean, and you know what? Since I started up, let's just touch on it a bit. I've told people that I understand why people may disagree with what he stated as far as the 50% Puerto Rican, 50% Spanish, 50% Black as far as hip hop. But I tell people that they have to look at it from his perspective because I grew up near him, and he's right. Half the people that were involved with hip hop were Black and Spanish. So for his interpretation, that's the reason why, like, in my opinion, that's the reason why he's like it's 50-50. I don't agree with that statement, but I understand where it comes from. So just leave my man alone. And like I said, that's a different. That's just crazy. And
yes, he has every right to that perspective because he was there.
Yeah, definitely.
You know what I'm saying, and that's all I can say to that.
Yeah, and that's another thing. Of course, both of us growing up in the Bronx, it's like, now we do know, and I'm pretty sure being Dominican as well, that there are people within the Spanish culture that don't identify as Black or even as a Spanish because they have white Puerto Ricans, white Dominicans, and even Black people who consider themselves white. But growing up in the Bronx, I don't think that we saw it as anything but what we were growing up in. And of course, I'm Black, so it's always going to be Black to me. But my Puerto Rican and Dominican friends were Black to us, even though they were Dominican and Black, because we fell under the same culture within the era we grew up in. So I don't think that people actually understand sometimes, especially if you didn't grow up in New York, because New York is, of course, the melting pot. But when you grow up in certain areas, whether it's Brooklyn, Queens, even Staten Island, like you grew up around a certain amount of, like even white people who grew up in Spanish or Black neighborhoods take on whatever it is that they're surrounded by. So, like I said, both of us coming from the Bronx, it's just amazing how people want to still separate us when we don't want to separate each other. Now, of course, within us, we have people that want to separate and do whatever. But at the same time, like, we're all one from whatever neighborhood. But that's neither here or there.
Yeah.
But when we first met, shout out to Terrell Blair, because we were introduced by him, and you were doing parties. I was doing parties. So what led you actually a step back, a little step back further? What got you into being, well, I'm not gonna say doing parties, because according to your bio, what was it? Wait, event coordinator. Event coordinator. Um, how did you get into doing event coordination?
Well, when we met, you know what I'm saying, I was fresh off doing music actually. So I was like a
Oh,
hip
that's
hop artist.
right. That's
Yeah.
right.
I
I
was a
forgot
hip
about
hop
that.
artist. And I actually went to your parties when I was like, before I even met Terrell, I went to your parties in the village
Yeah,
under the grill. You know
I
what I'm saying?
remember.
So I remember going to those things. But yeah, I was an artist. And then the reason that Terrell had linked us is because I had came up with this other aspect, was kind of a spinoff of what you had did with your industry event. And then I wanted a place because I recognized that when I was an artist, I didn't see a place where I could just meet executives,
Yeah,
where we could intentionally meet executives or meet writers and DJs and all kind of industry people. And it was weird because this was New York City. It's like, what do you mean you couldn't meet them? You know what I'm saying? But the industry had gotten that jaded back in, like, I would say this is 2014, maybe 2015. And where in New York, like, we wouldn't see none of our execs. They were all either like in Atlanta or Miami or doing everything but being in New York and signing New York artists. So all the people that we had were like media and maybe some new A&Rs and such. And we collaborated on one of those projects
yeah,
uh, to produce one of those events, and it became popular, the EIM, for that year. You know what I'm saying? Eventually, like, something got funny with one of the venues I was working with, and it kind of like disheartened me from doing it again because of the whole business aspect. At that time, though, I wasn't that knowledgeable as I am now,
yeah.
and I can tell you that the culture cons of the world, the all of these other new networking places, I feel like we're spinoffs of like EIM and what you had going on with the industry. So although I'm not a part of it, I'm still happy to see like our people getting it together and intentionally networking everyone for what they need, you know?
Definitely. And the funny thing is, like, the reason why, well, I had been doing parties before that, because when I worked with video music, because I came through the video music box umbrella, and I did celebrity games and parties. But when I specifically did Negril Village, it was because of the Industry Cosign. The Industry Cosign just celebrated 20 years earlier this year. So I had a section called the 5 W's: who, why, what, where, and when. And I always featured, my thing is, and I'm definitely going like hard body back in, um, not back, but coming up in 2025, like executives and artists, I always feature on the site. Every day there's a different artist or a different executive. I kind of shied away from that, but not really. And the reason why I started the Negril Village parties was to celebrate the people that were featured for that week, because it was a weekly party. I published daily, and it was always people to meet. And networking was the thing back then. Like, I don't think people network in the same way because, well, one, the internet and so many different things, and people aren't as personable as it was, 20 years ago. And the 5 W's was the event that, like you said, you've been there plenty of times, where people will come to and meet the people that they needed to vibe with or connect with. And so many people, like, started businesses from coming to my parties. I've done so many video releases, single releases. I've had artists from Fat Joe to Uncle Luke to Wendy Williams. Like, it was just so much of a thing. But I say all that to say that, like, you had the right mindset when it comes to making sure that people come together, so that way people can go to a central event and meet other people that they can either connect with, whether it's an artist or an executive, or people like videographers and different people doing different things. So like you said, I've been in situations where the money wasn't exactly what it's supposed to be, or the club owner got too greedy or whatever. And I kind of had I've kind of been lucky with the clubs that I was involved with, or the restaurants, because for whatever reason I usually picked well, but I got discouraged many times as well. So and the only difference is, like, I had started writing because I had my website, as well as me just doing promotions on the side and things of that nature. But I say all that to ask you, like, how did you be how were you an event coordinator? Now all of a sudden you're in the travel game, and not just in the travel game, but in the travel game in such a way where you made a mark right away. Because it surprised me, because when we know each other for certain things, that's what we anticipate. But then to see you, and then I think we connected one of these states, because of course I travel as well, but I'm not a travel writer. But
Right.
some of the companies, the tourisms or whatever, they contact me either because of my work with Black Enterprise or through my website, the Industry Cosign. How
Yeah, it
did
was
you
in Baltimore,
connect?
actually. It was in Baltimore where we like
Oh, yeah, Baltimore. Yeah.
connected and figured it out. And I actually had just started because that was my first official have a city fly me somewhere, see what they're like, and do that kind of thing. That was my first press trip when we linked up
Yeah.
in Baltimore back in, I'm gonna say it was 2022,
Yeah.
beginning of 2022, and it was CIAA time, so it was February of
Yes.
2022. Um, and Yeah, the way that happened for me actually is I was an event coordinator for the UFT, United Federation of Teachers in New York City. That was after I was doing grievances. So I became an event coordinator because of my history already doing the leisure nightlife stuff. And I told the people at UFT, hey, this is what I do. I'd like to transition. And they gave me that path after putting in some work with grievances. So what happened was I met my girl, who now is my wife, and on our second date, she tells me, "Hey, before you get too attached, I'm gonna live in another country next year." And I just, you know, life had already been kicking my ass because I was working this job and then I was doing nightlife and events for like 5 days a week. You know what I'm saying? So I had after works, brunches, late nights, all kind of things. I'm doing like 150 hours a week of work, and I'm not really seeing my money the way I should because I'm paying my rent next to Yankee Stadium. I have a 2 bedroom only because my son's with me like once uh, every other week. I have to keep a second bedroom in my house. So like my bills are kicking my ass, everything. When she said that, I was just like, you know what? I'm gonna go with you. Now she didn't trust it, of course, from that day. You know what I'm saying? But a year went by, and we finally actually intentionally started planning out how we were going to leave the country. And by 2019, we left to live in Thailand for 9 months. We lived in Thailand for 9 months, and then we traveled through Europe, got to South America, and then COVID happens. Uh, the lockdown happens right on my birthday, actually.
Oh,
So
wow.
the world locks down like March 13th. And no, Italy already locked down like in February. They had lockdown because we had just left. So
Yeah.
they locked down in February, and we're in Argentina. I just get there, and whatchamacallit, I get to celebrate a little bit my birthday, March 13th. By March 14th, Argentina shuts down and says, hey, our economy hasn't been that great. So you know what? We're not going to allow any of our people to go outside. So I'm there just trying to experience the country. Me and my wife, we're there trying to chill and see what's up. You know what I'm saying? Hit the streets, and all of a sudden, within one day, we're confined to our Airbnb. And in our Airbnb, we weren't allowed to go outside. We couldn't go to the store. We had to do everything via like their Uber services. Like we could only order food and stuff like that. That was the only way we can get something to eat every day. Um, so until I tried it one day, and there was a store right across the street from us, and I was just like, "Yo, it's right across the street. I'm just gonna like grab some milk or something. It shouldn't be an issue." So I go across the street. I come back and I'm like, "Nothing's wrong." My phone goes off, and it's my Airbnb host, and he's like, "Yo, man, I just got this from the security guard, and it's literally me on one of these like what it looks like one of these Fox 5 like I don't know, like what are they
Break,
called? Security
breaking
camera
news.
visuals where I'm like trying to creep into back into my building, and they're like, "Yo, man, if they catch you leaving the building again, they're going to deport you." You know what I'm saying? And I don't want to find out what that's like or anything like that. So after that day, I just like, all right, so this is what it is. From there, what happens is, you need something to do. You need your mind to keep going. And I had someone from Travel Noire that had reached out on my Instagram from, the way that I was documenting my travels. And they asked me to write one article. And I wrote about my transition from America to Thailand, and then I just kept that relationship going. And next thing you know, when I come back to the States uh, the following year, I just reach out to my network and I say, "Hey, I need something to do." And she pops up with a higher position and is like, "Hey, do you want to try this part time?" And then, writing just after that became a full time passion where I was in I was in my office where I am right now, right here, hanging out maybe 10 articles a day or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Just writing about all the experiences I had. And then at the same time, learning what it is to be in media and then learning what it is to be in Black media.
Yeah, those are definitely two different things.
Yeah.
That's a rabbit hole we don't want to go down, but
But my passion for travel, I was able to express it. And then this became a career where, oh, I just get to go to places, you know what I'm saying? And then I get to write about them. And then I actually get to give my honest opinion on what I feel about it. And what also happened with the world of journalism is once I got a taste of it, I kind of applied the same methods that I was using when I was doing music. I just started marketing myself. I told a lot of people what I was doing and how I was doing it. You know what I'm saying? So it became a part of my personal brand, and just like parties and events and all of those things, I just marketed myself as this travel person. And then eventually I got the attention that I was looking for when it came to trying to like move within different I would say industries, move between industries.
yeah,
So I had my music industry contacts, which was like yourself and Terrell, and then now I have these new journalist contacts or media contacts that I just kind of like merge both of the worlds, and I used it to my advantage. It's just always just being from the Bronx and being very resourceful. You know what I'm saying? Like using your homie down the block to get sugar, and then using your other homie down the block to get some rice, and making sure that you had something to eat that day. So that's basically how I approach everything.
now that's cool, and of course you have your wife to thank for
Yeah.
if she wasn't going to Thailand, do you think you would be doing this?
Oh man, you know what? I think
It set it up where everything from that point led you to where you are now.
yeah, I can honestly say I probably wasn't. I was probably on a trajectory of still trying to become like top event person in New York City. But at the time, I was scratching the surface of corporate events. So I was already kind of looking into going into like, I would say another brand outside of UFT. So I was already talking to corporations and companies about working for them or volunteering for them or doing some kind of assisting just so that I can transition into corporate events. But yeah, thank God I met my wife, and we found this whole other world for me. And as you know, because you guys go even way back,
Yeah,
that's how small the world was. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Um,
She used to have a crush on me. Never mind. Go ahead.
yeah, I heard about that. I said, let it go. I won. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, she was, yes, when you guys met, she was editor at Vibe, or she was Danielle's assistant and then became editor at Vibe. And she helped me along the way to transition to talk to you guys, not you guys, but talk to Black media, how to deal with media, how to interface, I guess, with all of the people within that kind of industry. Because I could still say that I was still pretty new, when I started. And I still kind of feel fresh at it. I just think that I'm implementing more of my own approach to this because of the state of that we're in right now with technology and what journalism is now,
Yeah. Well, have you before you started writing, did you write before that outside of music?
Yeah, surprisingly, what is so funny is like everything that I was doing for Terrell was kind of like the blueprint of what we did, what I'm doing now. Because when I met Terrell, it was all about showcases and stuff like that. But then I kind of creeped into his branding and what Hood Life Movement is and his website. And I assisted in, rebranding HLM, you know what I'm saying, all the way that it looks, kind of softening it up a little bit for the masses.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because if you remember, HLM had like the big baggy clothes and the hoodie guys logoed up in the front. And I was just like, hey, let's transition this a little bit into the new, the new wave. And I think Terrell was a good mentor to have because he was just so open to it. And I also think he wasn't doing much with it. So when someone came up with an idea, he was like, yeah, go fuck with it, see what happens. The great thing about Terrell is he's able to pick up and just go with it.
Yeah.
I was like one of the, I wouldn't say I was the first few writers because he did have people writing, but I was writing hip hop op-eds on HLM media. And dealing with the back end of helping him out, building his site with his boy. I think I forget his name. He's gonna be pissed if he sees this because he did so much for me too. But with his boy that mainly handled all his graphics and internet stuff. Me and him, we helped build that site. So then, fast forward to like 10 years later, and I'm sitting in front of a computer and I'm like, oh, now I have to go on the back end to do all these things. Meanwhile, when, my wife, she's telling me when she wrote, all she had to do was submit the writing. You know what I'm saying? Now in this era, we have to submit the writing, be programmers, developers, you know what I'm saying, all kind of technical stuff just to get the article out there when it comes to Black media. You know what I'm saying? So it was interesting to see it, all kind of come together in a way where now I'm trying to build my own thing, and all of the tools that I just acquired in this lifetime is being programmed into this thing that I'm building and I'm nurturing, and hopefully in 2025 the world gets to see.
Yeah, no, and definitely I applaud you for what, like, when you started your YouTube channel and things of that nature, because of course, I mean, I started, my thing many years ago, like when I was doing parties, and then when I was doing celebrity games, and even when and 20 years ago when I started my website, there was no such thing as like it was my website. It's still my website, but back then it wasn't what it is today, where it's cut and paste, put it in a CMS, and you're good.
Yeah.
I was actually coding. Like if you put certain things in certain areas and you put the wrong thing, the whole format is like
Yeah. You
for
had HTML back in the day. That was the only thing you needed.
man. Let's say a 500-word article probably took more than an hour to actually put in, let alone edit. And people didn't understand it back then, because nowadays all you got to do is get a free WordPress site, put it in, and even if you have Grammarly or whatever, it like shows you what errors. Bang, you can just publish.
Oh, yeah.
Back then, like I'm spending in enormous time doing things, and I was still I would like I said, I had an executive and artist profile or interview every day of the week. On top of going out to parties, because we used to take pictures at parties and list it before, like allnightclubs.com and all of them. Like we were doing that before that. So
Mm.
like like as Terrell would say, the military grind was so much back then where this is why I get disappointed with people who call themselves entrepreneurs nowadays that really don't have to do much, because even when taking pictures, we had to edit the pictures. So it's like I come from a generation where, I came from a generation where like, we did everything because it wasn't there. Hip hop wasn't the business that it is today,
Right.
and technology wasn't. I mean, we just graduated from beepers, let alone cell phones and things of that nature. So I get it when people are out there grinding and doing a thing, but the mindset nowadays is just a matter of I got a YouTube channel, a WordPress site, and I'm an influencer. I'm a this, I'm a that, and it's like you haven't done anything. So I say all that to say that I can appreciate you getting on your own and doing your thing because you felt you needed to, and then just doing it.
No, and what's funny is that I'm still like kind of a part of that. You know what I'm saying? Really a part of that era. And even when the writing started, it was hard for me to say that I'm a writer. You know what I'm saying? Because I was just like, this is something that I started and I was just very passionate about. But I took the time to actually go and learn what all the different styles are. What I'm saying? What is it that how do I contribute? What an op-ed piece is, what a listicle is. I had to go to school for that. I had to learn all of these things and I had to learn on the fly, which that wasn't the problem, but it was more of like, I had no issue earning my stripes. So while people might have seen it as, uh, a fast transition, I felt like I could have thrown that hat on even sooner and you would have known. You know what I'm saying? Because by the time you met me, I was already 6 months in. Well, I mean, not met me, but when you saw me in Baltimore, I was already 6 months in.
Yeah.
So my whole thing was like, no, I'm not there yet because I haven't done enough. Now it's like, a nigga just put those things up and say, this is who I am, and that's who he is, and like everyone just has to eat that. And I'm like, nah, like you still gotta prove something to me that you are actually this. And what makes the world much scarier is like now you go on the back end of WordPress and AI is there, and AI can tell you the whole thing of what to do. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, I get it. I could sit and be mad at how fast people are becoming authority figures.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Or I can just stay in my lane and hope that people that are really appreciative of the knowledge that I'm acquiring and the time that I put in when it comes to being a travel expert or a travel advisor, someone who actually travels the world, not just Google stuff and put it together for you so that a site can pay me $50. You know what I'm saying? Like these kind of things, I feel better at night. I sleep better at night because I know that my credibility is real.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So those things I don't get mad at. And then the other parts of that is I just know that I have so much to catch up on. So now that I'm building something of my own, I'm actually more excited, more passionate to catch up on information because I'm building it for a brand that's going to feed my family. And, you know what I'm saying? Hopefully for 20, 30, 40 and years to come. You know what I'm saying? Because it's all about building something that's going to leave a legacy for you, for the ones that come after you to be straight. You know what I'm saying? We don't want to go through the same thing. So yeah,
Definitely.
shout out to technology for speeding the process up and
Yeah.
creating these authority figures overnight. But the problem with that is the credibility. So I'm
Yeah.
perfectly fine living in the credibility lane so
Yeah.
that my brand in the end is actually something that you can come to, spend your time, spend your money on, and you know that you're getting a great product, not a product that is gonna tear apart after the first wash. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I'm
Yeah.
here for.
And it's funny because even if you go to my YouTube channel, I've been on YouTube for probably almost 20 years because the industry cosign, but I never took advantage of video in the way that people are taking advantage of it now. And one of the reasons why I started, and I did podcasting like 10 years ago when nobody knew what that was.
Right.
People didn't even know how to spell podcasting. And then the second time I started doing it was maybe about 3-4 years before the pandemic, going to a studio because had a co-host who had access to a studio and doing that thing, but then realizing that my heart wasn't really in it. And even still with what I'm doing now, I've been doing it off and on for 3 years. I've been most consistent within the past couple of months because now my mind is shaping to actually want to do this because it benefits me more because I had to do the chasing companies and getting paid from companies that don't care about me, don't care about what I do, as long as I produce whatever it is that they want. But then I have to realize that at the end of the day, in 5 minutes, they can get rid of me.
Right.
And I had to like, you know what? And the reason why I was able to work at Vibe, The Source, Billboard, and Black Enterprise was because of what I did with the industry cosign. And I'm kind of getting that feeling back because I also had another realizing earlier this year that like no one cares about you. No one cares about you, so you have to care about yourself. Like, and right now I write primarily for Black Enterprise. They can literally say in 5 minutes, we don't need you anymore. I mean, to be honest, this is my third time working with Black Enterprise.
Right.
So it's like, and I vow to you, and I don't care if anybody hears this, but either three times the charm or 3 strikes you out. So, if they ever come up to me and say, we don't need you anymore, or we found people better, I'm like, fine, I'm good, because I've gotten what I've gotten out of it. But I say all that to say that utilizing what you're saying to make your brand what it is, because the reason why I worked at every company I worked at was because of the work I did for my own site, because of things I wanted to do. And I've never taken a journalism class. I've never, none of that. So I was still learning things as recently as probably this morning, as far as a journalist.
Right.
But the one thing that has always been my strength, people follow me, people listen to me, people read what I write. Every property I've ever written for, except Billboard, because I only wrote for Billboard several times, but every property I've written for, Vibe is different because when I wrote for Vibe, and it's funny, when Danielle brought me on to write for Vibe, it was still the magazine and the online. Nobody cared about online. And I tried to say to her, online is the next thing. Online is the next thing. And she's like, yeah, whatever. Not in that way, but that's where I took it. Like, if I write something today, they're publishing it a week late, like a magazine. You write something today, you'll see it in the magazine 2 months from now. So I had that mindset where by the time they realized it was kind of too late, I had already left because I was like, I can't deal with writing something that's relevant right now, and the next week it doesn't matter because I've been online. But like I said, realizing even back then that it's like, you have to put yourself in a position so that way you can win. And I know that I've taken myself out of a position to win because I'm trying to be on somebody else's time, so to speak. So I had to sit back this year and realize that, like, it doesn't matter because tomorrow it could be all over with this particular property. So I need to step my game up and just do what I need to do. And I've always survived. I've been doing this for 20 years. Obviously, somebody like and at Black Enterprise, at the time, I went back right before the pandemic started. They were getting like 400,000 unique visitors a month.
Mm-hmm.
Within like 6 months, we're in the millions. And then a year or two later, we're like at 12, 15 million unique visitors a month. And
Wow.
I had the most traffic for all of those years. So I'm saying that I'm doing something right. But the only thing is, when you work with different editors, different techniques, different mindsets, and I probably worked with more editors at Black Enterprise than anybody in Black Enterprise history. Because I've worked with a number of editors where I'm like, the next month I'm like, somebody else. So you have to write it this way as opposed to writing it this way. And so it's like so like I appreciate it. I definitely appreciate it. And but like I said, within the last year, I said to myself, get back to caring about the industry cosign because people are always watching. That's one thing my mother taught me. People are always watching. And even when I started this, people was like, yo, I like your energy, I like what you do, I like the people you speak to. And another reason why I decided to do this is to help elevate people like you, people that I know that are doing things that people may not know about that hopefully I can help put in other people's ears, which I've done over the years with the industry cosign. So
Yeah,
now going forward, and the reason why I named this "My Friends Are Better Than Yours" because my friends are. And as I always tell everybody, if your friends are better than mine, show me. So but as I stated, it's you definitely have the right of course your wife is definitely because she was already in the industry doing her thing, and then you doing your thing, and I'm kind of almost jealous with the travel aspect because I've traveled, a lot.
yeah,
You know,
of
this
course.
past year I didn't, and that was kind of planned because like there were certain barriers, and I'm just used to like saying I'm gonna do it and just do it. But
Uh,
next year,
I could imagine what those barriers look like.
yeah. So I'm already going to Jamaica in 2 weeks,
Oh, dope.
and I'm going to Memphis 4 days later. So I'm like, you know what? When now that I'm still getting the invitations. I'm just turning them down. Now I'm like, you know what? Going forward, I have to do what's best for the industry cosign and what's best for Big Said, because it can be taken away from me elsewhere, and just roll with it. And like I said, and when I saw what you were doing, I was like, I but the only reason why I wouldn't do travel is because I'm not that passionate about it as you are. My
Right.
passion is more along the lines of either covering events, people, or my friends.
Yeah.
And if I can do that within that, then I'm all for it. But I definitely give you props for doing it, finding your niche, and definitely running with it. And I'm pretty sure there's going to be bigger things in your future. And I definitely congratulate you for taking that and running with it.
No, I totally appreciate you giving me this platform today. Um, it's awesome because I always thought that it was very music industry based, um, and I appreciate it. So thank you for putting me on. But what I wanted to mention was like I had an opportunity to start writing into music, but the thing was I just felt like all of my friends were already doing it. You know what I'm saying? So, I have friends at Billboard, I have friends at Excel and stuff, and I was just like, oh, like I kind of just want to do something that I'm into,
Yeah.
and I think travel, and then noticing the things on press trips where I get to experience things that a lot of people don't get to experience. You know how they roll out the red carpet, when you do a hotel trip or you do a cruise line trip or something like that. And what really piqued my interest is not seeing enough of us. And I think that's what made me even more passionate was the whole underdog aspect of it. It's like, yo, how can I get more black and brown folks to experience this? Because it's not a matter that we don't have the money. Like now we have the money to do these things, but they're not necessarily marketed to us.
Exactly.
So there is what lies my brand, which what people are going to be able to see in the year coming up. It's called Blux, and it's a travel brand, and it goes along with me being a travel advisor and recommending these like bespoke travel experiences for people who want to really have an adventure, a cultural adventure, not just an adventure of like, hey, look at me, I'm on a glass boat, or I'm eating rice inside of a pineapple, and you know what I'm saying, like these kind of things that you're used to, or that you're just used to seeing, or what your grandparents are doing when they go on a cruise. Like, no, it's much different. There's a whole nother world out there, and that's actually what what I'm saying, my premise has become. So not only am I freelancing for these predominantly white websites, what I'm saying, where they're giving their perspective, with the Herald and SACB, but they actually appreciate that I'm coming to them with this black vision, what I'm saying, black and brown, like, hey, how did he experience it? How did he like it? Then my social media following, they're also into the fact that I'm going to different kind of places, different cities, you know what I'm saying? Not just the major stuff, because the Blux brand is more about the cities that you don't know about. Like, yeah, you can get to Paris, but would you take the train to Normandy and spend the time on the beach, you know what I'm saying, up in France, you know what I'm saying, in Trouville, and eat mussels, you know what I'm saying, with French fries? You know what I mean? Would you go to Thailand and fly to a little tiny island called Koh Samet and, you know, have a beach all to yourself where they have fire shows every single night where the natives come out and start flipping fire, and it's just you and like 20 other people experiencing this. So like those are the kind of experiences that I want to provide to people, that me and my wife want to give to people. And that's what we have coming up in 2025 with the Blux brand, BLUX.
Well, that's good because that was like you that was a good segue, because I was about to ask about, because I know you're starting this and you're doing different things, and what can people expect when they do speak to you or want to find out about it? Wait, even before that, I know like the publication, the tourism boards or the people that contact me from the Black point of view, and I get it and I appreciate it, because like, you know, I get to travel some place I probably wouldn't have traveled to if they weren't paying for it. But
Right.
Working with, I guess, white companies or white whatever, like how do they?
White. We can't just say that they're white, but
I said,
historically,
yeah.
yeah.
I should say non-black, non-BIPOC.
Right.
But because I know specifically they do have like some agencies like specialize in that. But you being an individual, you being like solo, like when you speak to people that are trying to get you to talk about, you know, whether it's the island or whatever, do you get any pushback from looking at it from the BIPOC aspect as opposed to just an aspect?
I think sometimes it's not really pushback, but there's definitely a conversation within our own community. You know what I'm saying? Not necessarily from the people that aren't black or brown.
Gotcha.
What happens is with our own community, sometimes they question if uh, am I am I giving a true perspective because these experiences are being given to me, which I totally understand that part. But my whole thing is like, now that it's being given to me, and I'm telling you that they're at the same price points of you purchasing bottle service at the nightclub, or the same price points as you taking that Carnival cruise or that all inclusive trip to that 2-star resort in Dominican Republic. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm trying to show you that there's different alternatives. I'm not knocking what anyone loves to do. Like, if you love to do those things, cool. I see the bright side to all those things too. Me and my wife, we still love a buffet. You know what I'm saying? Me and my wife still love a little conga line, or, you know what I'm saying, a cookout vibe, whatever it is that our culture wants to claim or believes that that's where we need to be or stay at. I'm just more of like, hey, we don't have to stay here. We can do all these other things. And I'm feeding the group that loves to do other things. You know what I'm saying? So if there's a group that doesn't really rock with me, or they feel like Rafael is a little too proper these days, or I can't believe he grew up, you know, in Highbridge, or whatever it is that they think of me, you know what I'm saying? I think they need to let that go. And I'm really just here to open your mind and tell you that, hey, when you spend your money on these things, you have these other experiences that you could do that are very authentic, that are very true to that country or true to that city. Because like one thing I want people to leave from our conversation is, when you go to these major cities to visit, like a Paris, or now you're you know, Milan, or what Toronto, Brazil, they're already giving you what they think you want.
Yeah.
So you're gonna find a cheeseburger. You're gonna find a nightclub with Azul and Don Julio and hookah. You know what I'm saying? You're gonna like, You're going to see all the things that you're used to seeing in your hometown. You're going to be able to buy a hot dog. And I'm trying to tell you that that's not traveling. Like, I want you to go somewhere, experience something different, and experience something that's respective to the people that actually belong to that country.
Yeah.
Not that you're going to go to McDonald's because you can save money on a hotel in Paris. You know what I'm saying? Like, nah, man, you need to change your perspective. So the people that come to us are the people that are ready, that they're open-minded, that they've already done different things, but now they want to do it under the guise of a Black-owned company, a Black and Brown-owned company that says, hey, you want to do this safari in Kenya? You know what I'm saying? Do you want to, do you really want to know what that Moscow mule Jay-Z's talking about on that song with Nas? You know what I'm saying? Do you want to like? I want to take you there. You know, I want to tell you. I want to show you why Rick Ross made rap songs about Santorini. Like, I want to give you a different perspective and why the culture of it all is more important than just the picture on the gram.
Yeah. But give me a second. I got to turn on this light because it got darker.
Oh, okay, no problem.
And I'm sorry about that.
We got to be able to see you, man. You know.
And I'm dark enough already. But has there ever been a place that you've gone to that you really didn't have a good experience?
Oh,
Wait, and to add another part, and if so, how are you able to convey it in your writing? No, not convey the bad part, but how are you able to write something but not really bash them if it was a bad thing?
Okay, so that's a very great question, and I think that's for all the journalism heads out there. I tell a lot of people when they seek out, or a lot of companies, PR, marketing firms, that hey, if I don't like something, I don't write about it. I do enter everything with an open mind. So a lot of my biggest market are the travel and tourism boards for the different cities, domestic and international. And there's a lot of stuff that I'm not going to like. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not going to incorporate it. Is it a disservice? Sometimes. I'm kind of battling with it. I feel like some things do need to be highlighted as don't do. But if you're a follower of my writing and the stuff that I like to highlight on my social media and the stuff that I do write about, I would recommend before you go to a city, just check in for the stuff that I do write about and like make your own assessment of the stuff that you don't hear about. Or like if you see that it's something that's very popular within that city and I haven't written about it, then
might be a reason.
Yeah. Feel free to drop me a DM, you know what I'm saying? And just say, hey. And that's the thing, right? Like, I wanted to turn my DMs into a business, you know? Like, yo, I got all this information. Why not? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm still very like, hey, yeah, I can tell you about this. I can tell you what to do. Or, yeah, the next time you go there, I'm like eager to share this stuff. But now I like to give people full itineraries. But when it comes to my writing, yeah, if I don't like something, I just don't write about it. And I tell the PR and the marketing people, it's the same exact thing. They can push back and they can tell me, hey, well, is there something that you can say about it? Well, what I can do is I can be very comparative. You know what I'm saying? I can tell you why. I can tell you why I feel the notes of this wine in Kentucky doesn't match or doesn't live up to the wine in Napa. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can go into that, or I could just be like, yeah, I'm better off just not mentioning it. You know what I'm saying? The other parts of that is my moral compass, right? So if I go to a restaurant and there's 40 people staffed up in there, and let's just say it's a shitty day at the restaurant, which is very possible. You know what I'm saying? Morally, for me, I feel like shitting on a restaurant that might have just had a bad day doesn't sit well with me, that if somebody might lose their job or lose their whole business because I wrote for a website that gets 500,000 views and I said that place is shitty. You know what I'm saying? Now, what I do is, and I have proof, I'll send an email out on why I thought it was shitty to the people, to the PR people, or even to the restaurant manager or the restaurant's marketing people. I'll say, hey, I'll write a very long list of what I didn't like. And I don't have to do that.
Yeah.
However, you know what I'm saying? I feel like, hey, you guys did offer me this meal or you offered an experience. You did the best that you could, but I'm going to tell you why I didn't like it. You know what I'm saying? So I think to give an opportunity for businesses to do better is better than me shitting on a whole business with families and all of that. And you know what I'm saying? Like, I just don't, I can't do that. You know what I mean? And I feel like every journalist has their own approach.
Yeah.
And every influencer has their own approach. If that's what they want to do, feel free. But my brand doesn't do that. You know what I'm saying? Now, when it comes to blocks, you're going to see that there are things that I'm not including. You know what I'm saying? You want to do a domestic trip to Chattanooga. And if I say, hey, I didn't like that. That's the highlight that they have or all these other sites have. But I'm telling you, as a black and brown man, that didn't really rock with me. That place didn't sit well with me. You know what I'm saying? And if you get into me and my wife's social media and what our brands look like, you'll have an understanding of, okay, this is what they do. So now it translates over into the whole Blux Travel Club business of it all.
Okay. What advice would you give someone who wants to follow you and become a travel person or a travel writer?
Oh man, I would say just like many conversations that we've had, and even a little bit of what you touched on earlier, just go out and fucking do it. You know what I'm saying? Like, just go out and do it. And what I would recommend too, which if I was starting over, but in a way I kind of am, I would just say do it within your city because I love those kind of people where they become the influencer for their city. And now other cities reach out to those influencers and they have them go visit the other cities, you know? I have a friend, Beyond More, really great guy, but I would say if I needed to know something in Baltimore, I would visit his page. But now the whole world invites him to different parts, you know what I'm saying, different experiences and stuff like that to give their opinion. So to people out there who want to be travel influencers or travel journalists, I would start locally. Write about that local shop you love to go to. You know, highlight all the things that you love so that those things can come out more passionately. Then when you start getting into the business and you're transitioning yourself to the business, you're kind of starting from a more positive point. You know what I'm saying? You're starting from a more authentic, natural place because now you have this format of how you like things done, and now you can freelance for a company. You know what I'm saying? Because what I'm noticing now, before when because I've never been a freelancer until now. You know what I'm saying? What I'm noticing now, though, as a freelancer, is these companies, these bigger companies, they do want your voice.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So the more unique it is, the more people are interested in finding out. You know what I'm saying? And I think carving out a niche for yourself and working on local businesses and experiences, writing about those things and creating your own website like Said did. I think those are the positives and what could work in your favor when it comes to travel journalism.
Yeah. What is it now when people do speak to people about things in business, like it's very rare that people like talk about the pitfalls or the negative things. And I think that if you're going into something, you should also know what's not the worst that can happen, but if there are any pitfalls. Now, of course, every situation is unique and it's different, but from your viewpoint, if I say to you, hey, what are some of the pitfalls that I might encounter by entering this field?
Hmm. Um, well, first and foremost, let me thank God. That's all I can say. I'm very grounded when it comes to my Lord and Savior and all those things. Like I love my God. So my recommendations are going to come from my experiences and the things that I've been through navigating this wonderful world of journalism. Uh, you know, writing is an art form, and art is subjected to multiple opinions. So you're gonna have to prepare yourself in experiencing the people that are cutting the checks for you to survive in journalism aren't always going to like the way you do your art. So if you approach it with that mindset, it'll be much easier for you to get through your day, because now what you're doing is now you're feeding in art. And I know what you're going to say is like, how authentic is that to myself? Well, that's when you have to become creative. You know what I'm saying? You have to figure out how to navigate within what the company wants, what your editor wants, what the people want, what the PR firm is expecting. Because fuck what they want.
Yeah.
What the PR firm is expecting, not what they want. Now you have to manage and navigate all these things. You have to juggle them. And now you have to create a piece of writing, you know what I'm saying, that's 300 to 500 words, depending on who you work for. That's 300 to 500 words of your quote unquote opinion, and write it in a way that sits well with you and still has to have somewhat of a monotone feeling to it. Now, I got to tell you, this is a difficult task, but what happens is it sharpens your sword. It makes your sword so sharp that when you go out there and you finally do go into freelancing, or you do decide to build your own brand, now you know exactly what you want to say. You know what I'm saying? So I recommend working for someone. I recommend working for organizations, having that understanding of what an editor wants, you know what I'm saying, and how to stick to AP codes, because yeah, that guy over at the source was sticking to AP codes. But whatever, I digress. Like all of those things, you know what I'm saying? Well, you're always going to be learning. So yeah, you can graduate summa cum laude from Harvard, journalism major. You submitted for Wall Street Journal. They posted your thing, but you're still going to have to answer to somebody.
Yeah.
And I think the reason that I thank God is because God teaches you how to humble yourself, and how to be humble, and know that he's the one in control. So when that editor is hitting you at 5:59 p.m. saying that you missed the edit off an article that you submitted at 2 p.m., just know that at 5:59 p.m., you better just go there and, rework the article, because you might not eat tomorrow. Like, that's all it is. It's just like, be humble, approach everything as a learning situation, or a learning experience, and just be grateful. Have an understanding that, hey, this is right now, but it's not forever.
Yeah.
You know?
And another thing I want to add, because I'm still learning, and I mean, my website's been up 20 years. I've written for 20 plus different sites, and like I'm finding out things that people are looking at me like I should have known, but I've always had to let them know that I don't have a journalism background. But like you said, it's realizing that, with different publications, different editors, and like I said, specifically with Black Enterprise, I've had about 20 plus editors, and I'm not exaggerating. So it's like every editor that comes in is going to see it from their viewpoint, not from. And the thing is, I don't care what anyone says, and I'm going to hold my ground when I say this. I know the Black Enterprise audience, but another editor is going to come at me like, no, you can't do this, that, and other. You have to do this, that, and the other. And I'm like, I've been here X amount of years. I'm the top. I've gotten the most traffic in Black Enterprise history, and you're trying to tell me that all the people that have been reading my articles for all these years is not going to get it. So, like you said, you kind of have to suck it up and be like, okay, you're the editor, and I have to get that check,
Yeah.
and I always tell people that sometimes, it's, like you said, it is a matter of swallowing your pride or learning something new. And I've learned some new things. And as a matter of fact, honestly, in the last 2 years, I've learned things that I didn't know that I was doing wrong for so many years, according to who was telling me I'm wrong, but someone else never told me I was wrong, and it worked for 2 years before that. So, like you said, we have to like open our ears, and even if we're experiencing what we do, there's always going to be a different viewpoint, especially if you're not doing it yourself. What I write on my site and how I write doesn't matter because it's my site. I can do it the way I want to do it. And if people come to my site based on what I write and how I write it, and that's the reason why, like when TMZ got popular, they didn't get popular because they had all the journalistic integrity that the New York Times and all. No, they got popular because they did things the way that they wanted. They did it in an off-center kind of way, and people were drawn to it. And then all of a sudden, you have a bigger brand now. Same thing with the Shade Room and all these other websites. And no disrespect to any of them because, of course, they're doing a thing. But like, I don't do rumors. I don't do gossip. So
Right.
I wouldn't survive in that type of mindset because I'm not writing in that way. But if I work with somebody who comes from that background or has worked in that type of publication, then I'm going to have to slight my views in order to satisfy what she or he wants. So that way we can have a working relationship. I don't care if it's a good working relationship, as long as we have a working relationship, because that's all that matters at the end of the day. Because if they can't work with me or I can't work with them, somebody's got to go. And more than likely, it's going to be you,
Yeah.
especially me. I'm a freelancer. So, we can cut that off and we're good and we can get somebody else to take his place. So I do agree with you when it comes to that, because like I've had to change my mindset many times, and then have to realize that, yeah, what she does or what he does is different from what I've done. And even if I'm more even if I have more experience, even if I've been doing it longer than them, different skill sets. And that's the reason why it doesn't upset me. And that's the reason why I say to people, like, you know what? You know what? Some editors aren't good writers. Excellent editors, horrible writers. Some writers are good at what they do, but can't. I'm not an editor. I will never be an editor. I can't put up with I can't, I give editors credit because, like, I'm like, they have to speak to people and then have to tell them they're doing things like incorrectly or to do it another way. And then
Right.
sometimes, depending, you have to deal with different personalities and different people, and you have a big
Yeah.
staff.
Imagine having to manage 20 cents,
Yeah,
basically.
and especially if you have especially if you do a daily site.
Yeah. Right.
So it's like, and I get it, and that's the reason why I try to be as cooperative as I can, because I don't want to present anybody with any problems, because I don't want any problems.
I think my only issue at the moment with journalism uh, in this era of the whole online space, though, is that they're not really like allowing too many voices. Like for you to be unique,
Yeah,
nichey, for you to stand out within our own brands, which are, Black Enterprise, Vibe, all these companies, they're not really allowing us to be opinionated.
no,
And I think that it's taken away from what I loved when YN was YN. We had Bobo back in the day,
mhm,
who was really dope. I never got to meet him, but I mean, he's somebody that I remember. You know what I'm saying? I was inspired by. Um, the guys at Two Dope Boys or whatever. Like those kind of things. Like unique opinions have been kind of muted so that we can feed this bigger
yeah,
corporate entity, right? And now the corporate entity is trickling down just salaries so that people can peel out whatever the company is guided under. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's what's kind of missing, and that's the only thing that's a little disheartening of the business. But once again, industry cosign, Blu Travel Club, all of the Hood Life movement, all of these entities are coming from that. So when you want unique voices, they're out there. You just got to work a little bit harder to find them. You know what I'm saying? And
yeah,
more than likely, if you have a writer that you love, if you love a Big Ced, or if you love a Rafael Pena, there's somewhere on the web that you can find where they have their own material, or they have their own opinion, or their own art. You know what I'm saying? their social media, their websites, whatever. So I think, that's my gripe with media in general.
Yeah.
But the bright side is we can go out and do our own thing and get just as much attention as we did when we worked for those bigger brands.
Yeah. But like you stated, because like I said, I've been involved in journalism a long time, and there was at every publication, damn near, at least the popular ones, they always, from the source to Billboard, they always had people who wrote in their style, and that's the reason why they got a bigger audience. It
Right.
wasn't because of what the editor in chief or the top person. It was a matter of hearing different voices because you have a different audience. And I have to agree with you where it's like, you know, if you, now I understand the stylings of a publication, I get that, but when you're taking away somebody's voice, when people are listening to that voice and you're making them or that person the same as every other voice, how can you distinguish yourself as a brand from other brands that are allowing it? And that's one of my gripes, because like, and I'm gonna use Black Enterprise as an example because I haven't really freelanced for anybody else recently, but I've known that, you know, my style has changed over the years, not because I wanted it to, but because of the people that I was reporting to or writing for wanted it to reflect what they wanted. But when I had the bigger traffic numbers, it was in part primarily because of the way I wrote it, not because of what was written. And I think that it is unfair when you have 15 different personalities, but you're telling them to write under one personality, and then you get disappointed or you get like mad that you're not getting the results you're getting. But if somebody knows how I write and they're coming to the site because they know how I write and they see that I'm writing like Rafael, then does it matter anymore? It's not going to matter anymore. And then, you know, we all get caught up as a publication as opposed to individually.
Yeah, and then all the publications look the same,
Yeah.
and then nobody's going to care
Nope.
because it looks the same.
Yep. And I remember like the Bones Malones, and I mean I can name so many different writers from so many different
Yeah,
publications.
I remember all those guys, and they were guys that I looked up to.
They
And
they stood out because they weren't like anybody else.
right,
But it's like nowadays, it's like you have to be like everybody if you want to be on this team. And if that's the case, then you know you have to, if you want to be involved with that, then you're gonna have to.
yeah, and it's I was
Sadly,
I was
sadly.
kind of discouraged early on when I saw how high school it was working, how very like clicky against and very, like I was like, I don't have time for this, even remotely. Like, how does it get like this remotely? But as you move on in the business and you start to realize and you build your own contacts, because I think that's also another piece of advice that I got from you, um, is to build your own network, you know what I'm saying, and maintain communication with that network. Because I mean, honestly, when I stopped working for those sites, my network is what always kept me, going. And even if I go back 30 years, my network is literally how I've always either had some source of income or made something happen, is really because of who I knew. Had nothing to do with education or what, what I'm saying, kind of what certificate I had. It was always somebody that I knew or somebody that I got to know. You know what I'm saying? So I think people that are out there pursuing journalism or pursuing to have a voice in media, black media, journalism in general, or whatever, is to carve out your network and always just stay unique, but understand that when you are working for other brands, you belong to that brand.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Point blank, period. That's who you belong to. That's what you need to put out, but it's only temporary.
Yeah. And it's always sad that, well, at least in my experience, because like I've never like every brand I've worked at contacted me. So
Wow.
so it's like you contacted me for a reason, you know, and now you tell me that I gotta write, you know, I'm writing in Shakespearean, but now you want me to write in Edgar Allan Poe, you know. So it's like, you know, not no in between. It's like, no, you're gonna write this way. I know you're great at doing this aspect, but we want you to do this aspect, but bring the numbers that you've always done in this
I,
aspect.
there was an editor at your company that was just like, oh, this is too smart.
It's like the hip hop game. You can't be intelligent in your raps.
And
You
I was just like, so you're saying that this demographic doesn't want to read like the New York Times? They want to read captions from the shade room? You know what I'm saying? Like just give it to me straight. You know what I mean? Like, anyway, I'll digress from that. But
and like I said, and working with different brands over the years, like I've always appreciated that. Like I've been allowed to be me, and I would never. And I look back over the years, and I'm like, some things I should have done differently. And I'm not gonna lie, over the past couple of years, I have been more lazy, not in my work, but in the way I've done things because it's not gonna matter at the end of the day. It
yeah,
really isn't. So it's
and
like, why am I gonna put forth the effort to do this, and you're either gonna reject it or you're gonna make me change it anyway.
yeah, and it's also, man, it's God's timing. So there's
Yeah,
really no regrets. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? You're gonna get to this point. And I mean, I look forward to the day where a company reaches out and they want me just for my voice. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's something that everyone should aspire to, and unfortunately I see it more with our white counterparts, where they do get to freelance, make an abundant amount of money, and they're hired just for their voice, right? So our white counterparts can write 8 articles and live that month, as opposed to, in black journalism, you have to write, I'm just going to give a ballpark figure, but whatever 5 times 25 is, 125 articles that month for you to be able to pay your rent, do the things that you need to do, and have some sort of life. Just be able to buy a bagel and a coffee in New York City on a Saturday. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, there's a discrepancy, and hopefully, uh, the new wave of journalism that is listening to this will understand the importance of having a niche, having writers with their own voice, with their own following, and bringing them to companies so that you can bring what actually is a unique visitor,
yeah.
not unique visitor by the term that they have out there, but unique because they're coming specifically to read your shit. You know what I
Well,
mean?
yeah. The good thing is that there are so many different other publications that are allowing people to do that. They might be smaller, but I think that every big publication was small at once.
Right.
So and going forward, like once people start, and the thing is, there's too many choices nowadays. So and with a lot of companies, they get stuck in their own ways where they're not looking to the future. They're just looking on what they've been doing for the past whatever amount of years, and then they end up losing in the long run because then the newer companies are surpassing them, not because they're better, but because they have a different outlook. They have a different the audience is growing up. So you have 13-year-olds that was 10 years ago or 23 now that has a different mindset and is not reading the same thing. And the way they've come up with the type of content that they're used to reading, that's what they're looking for.
Yeah.
They're like, they're like looking for, the stuffy, like they're just looking for something different. And that's the reason why a lot of the older publications lose an audience, like I said, not because of the content, but sometimes the delivery of the content.
Yeah, and it's also like, it's it's just one big data business. You know what I'm saying? It's like, hey, let me get this demographic, let me borrow this demographic from you from the last 10 years, and let me feed them this now. You know what I'm saying? And of course, because that demo has grown up, that's what they want. You know what I'm saying? And I think with some companies, yeah, they do get kind of stuck in their old ways. But then you have new companies that aren't really in touch with what our group wants.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So like the people that follow said, they might not necessarily want what the people that follow me want. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's what makes it all important and actually all beautiful. You know what I mean? Because then we can all just coexist in this world where we have the people that like this, we have the people that like that. But when these bigger companies are just giving everyone the same thing, that's when the numbers start to die down. And they're not realizing that. Like it's I mean, it's just like any other rap dude when he's not producing the material that people want to listen to anymore. We not checking for that shit no more. You know what I'm saying? That's all it is. That new energy that you're looking for, you're trying to get Gucci to be a sponsor on your website. Like, they're not checking for that data that you're giving them. You know what I'm saying? So when I'm telling you, yo, here's a fresh idea, here's something that you need to incorporate. Fuck with me. Fuck with that. You know what I'm saying? Because we're paying attention to what the streets are saying. You know what I'm saying? What the internets are playing with. You know what I'm saying? Because we're part of a generation that's very involved of like, hey, we're still 1 foot in where we can go outside, and we're still 1 foot in with all of our corporate buddies. You know what I mean? So like when I come to a company and I tell them, hey, like this is what you need to be on, don't do it 6 months later. You know what I'm saying? Because you're going to be late. You're going to be late.
You know, tangled web we weave.
Yeah.
You know, the only thing you can do is just do what you need to do. And the sad reality sometimes is that sometimes you have to accept things in order to get to the level that you want to. And it might not be at the pace that you want it to be, but then when I was at the source, when I was running the online website, the interns that I had, I told them one thing. I said, if there's one thing you learn from working with me, is to this was before people became brands, like, you know, but I would tell people, make sure that people know your name, what you are, and who you stand for. Because if I'm Big Ced from the source and the source gets rid of me, are you gonna fuck with me because I'm someplace else now? More than likely not, because if you know me from being the source and I never created my own identity and I created everything under the source, no one's gonna care if I'm not at the source anymore.
Right.
So, but if I'm Big Ced, who happens to work at the source, when I'm Big Ced at an even smaller magazine, but as you stated before, with the context I've already made and the audience that appreciates what I do, they're gonna be like, "Oh, you're over here now? Well, let me check this out." That's
Yep.
not a coincidence. So it's like, and I've had some interns tell me like, "Yeah, you were right because, you know, once I left this company, nobody knew or cared about who I was because I didn't make a name for myself."
Oh yeah. Emails stop coming in.
Yeah.
Nobody's checking for you. Yeah.
And another thing that I learned from the 14, 15 years ago when I first started working at Black Enterprise was I had a Black Enterprise email address, but I continued using the Industry Cosign email address because guess what? If I use the Black Enterprise address and they get rid of me, you can't find me.
Right.
But if I use my personal brand that I've been using for the past 20 years, you're going to always be in touch with me. Then if you need something and I'll be like, oh, I'm not a Black Enterprise anymore. Oh, what are you doing now? Blah, blah, blah. Okay, well, can we put it for this? As opposed to, now there are people that's like, but you got to utilize that Black Enterprise name. And I'm like, no, I don't. Because by the time I started working at Black Enterprise, I was already Big Ced.
Yeah.
And there's a difference. If I'm still coming up in the game or I made my mark at Black Enterprise, that's different. I was basically recruited to Black Enterprise, not because I had a degree, not because I was the best writer, but because I already had an audience. I had a relationship with, specifically in hip hop, I had a relationship with like 80% of not only the artists, but the executives. So I came with like, you know, with some muscle because
Yeah. You had the inside scoop that they
yeah.
needed.
And people came to me for the Industry Cosign. So of course they're going to come to me for Black Enterprise if it's on a different level.
Right.
So I made sure that actually outside of Butch, the CEO, I'm the only person that has a nickname as an email address. At Black Enterprise, it's last name, first initial at blackenterprise.com. You can put in Big CED at blackenterprise.com and I'll get that.
That's what's
Why?
up.
Why? Because I've always been Big CED. And I'm always going to be Big CED until I change it. Of course, I'm always Cedric Thornton. I'm not taking that away. But in this industry, you say Cedric Thornton, if they don't know, like even my byline, Cedric Big CED Thornton. There's a reason for that. So it's like any other place. And like I said, and I do appreciate the fact that Black Enterprise allowed me that, because when I first got there, like everybody was under their name. Then I come in, Cedric in parentheses, Big CED Thornton. To this day, I still have that.
Yeah.
But that wasn't because I was a nice guy. That wasn't because they felt generous. That was because my brand was already set 15 years ago or 13 years ago when they asked me to come write for them.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. Like, for the people that want to go out there and get started, establish yourself. If you're not in a place like a New York or LA or Chicago or any of those places where journalism is a thing for real, just establish yourself as an authority in your city or in your neighborhood. You know what I'm saying? And let that grow into a person like a Big CED or whatever it is that your name is out there. Build your brand, and they will come. And it's not going to be overnight. And like I said, just thank God, and it will come to you when it needs to come.
So. But I want to add to that, because the if not the most important thing, especially as a writer, is the content. Right. Because if I'm whack at what I do, no one's going to care, because they may come because they know me, but are they going to stay? No. So in order for them to stay, they have to have a reason to stay.
Yeah, but it's also good for those kids out there or anybody out there to seek out a mentor.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Seek out somebody that's already there. See if they'll talk to you, or any one of us, me or CED, we do consultations. We'll talk to you. You know what I'm saying? So just seek somebody out that's willing to help you, and make sure that you're not whack. But before you come out here on these journalism streets, don't be whack. You know what I mean? Like, you don't want to put out a whack mixtape. But even if you do, that's just part of your growth. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So just make sure that this is something that you're passionate about and that you really want to do, and not something that you just want to like carry on into your next hustle. It's, write about something that you're passionate about, that you love, and you'll have a very long career in this.
Yeah. But I do appreciate, you coming up when I asked. And as I stated, I think it's important that my audience gets a chance to meet other people that I already know that are doing things or on the verge of doing bigger things. So that way, and that was the thing when I first started Industry Cosign, I was covering artists that nobody knew about, Alicia Keys, like Eric, like people that no one knew about, that the only time, like the billboards and even the Source and all these other places, the only time that they wrote about them was when they actually charted. I was writing about them because of my relationships with whoever I was working with at the time, knowing that something was coming along, them trusting me and getting the word out there, like all of that worked in my favor. So I have done so many, like there are people that are definitely millionaires now that nobody knew when I covered them on the Industry Cosign. And that's the reason why I still have relationships with a lot of artists that goes back 20, 25 years, and definitely executives, because my whole thing, when I started to move away from celebrities, my thing was executives. I definitely want to get props. And when I first started at Black Enterprise, that was the thing. I was like giving them, executive, like as an example, like J. Alexander Martin, like Fubu, like,
oh yeah,
like he wasn't in Black Enterprise until I put I could bring so many different names where it's like I just felt that it was important to bring certain people out there, even if people know them, but let them hear about other things that they didn't know about. My relationship with these people was what brought out different things. So and I prided myself in that. And that's the reason why I said I need to get back to the essence of who I am and what the Industry Cosign was about. There's a reason why I named the site the Industry Cosign.
Right.
People don't use cosign like they used to from like when we were using it 20 years ago. But people will come to me to get the cosign and actually help spread the word. So now I'm saying 20. I've been in the game. I had the site for 20 years. Now for the next 20, I've got to treat it like it's my first year again. So
Yep.
And even like I said, even with this podcast, my friends are better than yours. So that way, not only do I get to speak to people that I've known or I've gotten to know over the years, but also to meet newer people. Maybe not under the my friends are better than yours umbrella, but I still have a website. I still have the thing and I'm still doing it. So I have to get back to the essence of what made me Big CED as opposed to what people are telling me I should be doing in order to, get whatever number that they're trying to get. Like for now on, there has to be industry cosign first and everything else second. And not because I'm better, but because that's how I got to the position I got to. Because it was always everything industry cosign, Vibe, the source, every different publication was like, I like what you're doing. You need to be doing that over here. I got to get back to essence of because, especially the way these people are writing nowadays, I be looking at these websites and I see grammatical errors. And so that's my.
It's the Wild West out here, but it's okay.
Yeah. So
I say that I want to make sure I'm getting feedback,
and I
didn't do anything.
A little bit.
I don't
know why.
But
I appreciate the time. Anything? How can people get in touch with you?
I think the best way for like serious inquiries, I would say, is to hit me up on LinkedIn. I am Rafael Peña, and same thing as my email. You can hit me directly at iamrafaelpena@gmail.com. And follow me on Instagram. I am Rafael Peña, same thing. And all my information is online. I'm not hard to reach. There's a .com coming soon as well. And we also have the BLU Travel Club, which is going to be a really big project for us in 2025.
Cool. Well, it's a good thing. I don't know what I'm getting,
and I didn't do anything.
But once again, thanks for being involved. I don't like this. Pay for this. Actually, let me see. Disconnect.
Well, it doesn't sound like feedback on my end.
So maybe it's
it does. It's doing like a little muffle every other 3 words or something like that.
Yeah. Or maybe that's the thing. Shut up. People go about this. So once again, with everything you're doing, New Year, it's a chance you need anything. Any advice? I think I've told you.
Yeah, I ain't afraid to reach out and ask.
So as I say, anytime I end my show, my friends are better than yours. And if you don't think so, I want you to prove it. Otherwise, Big CED, time, 20 years, and going to get one industry cosign. And thank you. Enjoyed day, Rafael.
All right, shout out to Industry Cosign, man. Thank you, CED. Appreciate
problem, man.
it. Man, cut it out.